What is the quick assessment? It is activity one of an initial assessment. Again, you can look for this on page 28 of the EFL handbook. This activity is conducted by interviewing somebody who knows the learner well. And based on their answers, it doesn't suggest a score. What does it do? It suggests where the skill deficits might be. Here's an example about answering the question, the tendency to make requests. And here's an example of a person, and here's what the answer to the question was. The person who knew the learner very well said, this learner makes requests by exhibiting problem behavior. Or maybe the learner makes requests by leading others to items. In either case, it suggests what? It suggests that the skill deficits, our skill numbers are 1 to 5, are 6, and are 7 to 8. And you will see that it's in the blue domain, which is domain 1. I'll scroll back now to an earlier page, and you'll see that. As you can see, the domains of Essential for Living, domain 1 is blue, and all the skills start with R. Once you start to use Essential for Living, this will become very easy and very familiar to you. Okay? Sometimes that it might be that 2 different answers adequately answer a question. So rather than going back and forth between one or the other, just put them both in. We're not worried about validity and reliability in the sense of a psychological assessment. We're worrying about collecting information that will help us build a program for a learner that will make a difference in their life. So after you've completed the quick assessment, what can you do? Well, let's think for a minute. What's now going to be the outcome of the quick assessment? Are you going to get a score? Yeah, you can look back and see the grid, how many 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s you have. Yes. Yeah, 1s and 2s tend to mean there's a substantial skill deficit. 3s and 4s means there's less of a deficit or no deficit at all. You can look at that if you like, but that's not the most important outcome of a quick assessment. The most important outcome of a quick assessment is a list of possible skill deficits. And that's what you will get. You will not get a score other than that little grid, but you will get a list of the learner's possible skill deficits. Now, the reason we call them possible is because we haven't put the learner in the circumstance in which the skill would be expected to occur and recorded their initial performance, because that's what we would need to do to complete an assessment. But right now, they're on the possible skill deficits list. So when you come out of your quick assessment, when you come out, you have your list of possible skill deficits. You can do one more thing if you like, but it's not required. You can go to activity 3. You'll find that on page 28 again, back to page 28. That'll be a page that you'll go back and forth with quite often. See, go back to what's activity 3? Well, if you want to, you can scan through the other skill domains. See, you can scan through. Let's go back up and see them. See, you can scan through domain 2, listener responses, and 4, daily living skills, and 6, tolerating skills. You can scan through those domains and look for items. And maybe your learner's name is Charlie, and you look at, geez, that's Charlie. And you're pointing to a particular skill set. Oh, that fits Charlie. That's Charlie needs that, I think. So let's add that to the possible skill deficits list. Now, when you look through this instrument, you're going to find some skills, and it might, when you see them, it might be a little disconcerting to you. You might see some skills that wouldn't apply to your learner at all. But remember, the reason they're there is because they will apply to some learners. Some learners, the extent of whose deficit is more severe than the child that you're working with. Their deficit is incredibly more severe and more involved. And so don't let that concern you. Just remember that, well, your child may not need that, but there are other children out there who will. And then the final stage of an assessment is to take the skills that are now your possible skill deficits, and one by one you put the learner in the circumstance in which the skill is expected to occur, and you record their initial performance. By the way, if you start out using the quick assessment, if you get the free copy of the app from Liz, and you start out with the quick assessment, you see, you could do all of this right in the app.